Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into the sources you've shared. All of them focus on the fifth and final book of the Torah, Deuteronomy.
A huge one.
It really is. And our mission really is to get into this material and pull out what makes it so foundational. So for a quick refresh, if you need it, this entire book is basically one single monumental moment. It's Moses's farewell speech.
His sermon, yeah.
Right, his sermon, delivered just as the people of Israel are literally standing on the edge of the promised land. This isn't just looking back. It's a final charge for the future.
And that context is just, it's everything. The name itself, Deuteronomy, people get a little thrown by that. It means second law. But, what the sources all show is that Moses isn't making up new rules. Not at all.
So what is he doing?
He's taking the original law, the one they got at Sinai 40 years ago, and he's reapplying it. He's pressing it into the minds and hearts of a brand new generation. It's all about covenant renewal.
The ultimate bridge, then. Linking that past in the desert to a future in the land. And as we go through the sources today, we're going to be tracking 3 core themes that just pulse through every chapter.
Yes.
They are: remember, obey, and choose life.
Okay, so to set the stage properly, you have to feel the weight of this moment. We're talking about, 40 years after the Exodus? And that 40-year gap is so critical because, and the material really stresses this, the original generation.
The ones who walked out of Egypt?
Exactly. They've all died in the wilderness.
And why? Why did they die out there?
Well, the text is very clear. It was because of unbelief, disobedience. They just couldn't bring themselves to trust God and enter the land when they had the chance.
Which means the audience for Moses for this urgent final speech, it's their children. He's speaking to a whole new group of people.
A new cohort standing right there on the plains of Moab, looking across the Jordan River at Canaan. They're about to shift from being, nomads to settlers, maybe even conquerors.
And Moses is essentially saying, look, you have to learn the lessons your parents failed to grasp.
Precisely. And that generational handoff, that's what shapes the whole book. It's why the content is organized the way it is. You get these 3 major speeches from Moses.
Right.
He looks back at their history, he looks inward at the law itself, and then he looks forward to the consequences of their choices. It's a review of past failures, God's faithfulness, and then all the blessings and warnings tied to what they do next.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's start with your first theme, which is all about memory. Remember? This first sermon, it's basically a really intense history lesson.
It is, yeah. He's trying to prevent them from making the same mistakes.
And he does not pull any punches. He talks about the triumphs, the escape from Egypt, God giving them victories, but then he just slams the brakes on the story.
He does.
And forces them to look at their single biggest failure, that moment of rebellion at Kadesh Barnea.
That is the turning point. For anyone who doesn't know the story, that's when they sent spies into Canaan. And 10 of them came back with these horror stories about giants.
Right, filling everyone with fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the people chose fear over God's promise. That single choice led to the sentence of 40 years of wandering. Moses is saying, look at what forgetting cost your parents. It cost them everything.
But the lesson isn't just don't mess up, is it? Because Moses immediately shifts the focus.
Yes, and this is what's so fascinating. He points out that God's mercy sustained them through all those 40 years. The punishment was real, but God never abandoned them.
And you highlighted a quote from the source material that it captures that tension between discipline and love so perfectly.
Oh, it's one of the most moving lines. It's so specific. He tells them, the Lord your God has carried you as a father carries his son.
Wow.
All the way that you went until you came to this place. It just changes the whole tone. It's not a lecture about failure. It's a testimony of grace in spite of failure.
That is a powerful image. It completely reframes the emotional core of the book. It's not just don't forget the rules. It's don't forget the character of the one who carried you even when you broke them.
Exactly right. The big takeaway for this new generation is that memory fuels obedience. You have to internalize who God is, this faithful father, and what he's done before you can even begin to follow his instructions.
And that idea of enduring care is, I think, the perfect pivot to the next and biggest part of the book, the part that's all about our second theme. Obey.
Moses' second sermon. This is the bulk of Deuteronomy.
And it kicks off with the foundation, right? He revisits the 10 Commandments. But the sources are really clear. These aren't just being presented as like a cold list of rules. What's he trying to do by reintroducing them here?
He's reframing the law as the architecture for a relationship. The law isn't how you earn God's love. It's how you express the love you already have for the God who rescued you. It's relational, not transactional.
Ah,
And this brings us right to the absolute theological heart of Deuteronomy, and you could argue the whole Old Testament.
the Shema.
The Shema, the great declaration.
Lay that out for us. What is it?
The Shema is this declaration. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Now you have to remember the world they're about to enter. Canaan was saturated with polytheism.
A god for every city, every river.
Every hill, yeah. Often demanding these horrible rituals. So for them to stand up and declare the Lord is one was a radical, revolutionary statement. It's the birth of absolute monotheism as a national identity.
And that radical idea of one God demands a total response, right?
Absolutely. Because he is one, he demands your exclusive devotion. Which leads to the next line. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. That's the command that everything else is built on.
So what here is that obedience isn't about, just checking boxes. It's about aligning your entire self, your emotions, your spirit, your physical body to this one God.
That is the crucial distinction. The material says this isn't legalism, it's devotion. Legalism is following rules because you're scared or you want to earn points. Devotion flows from love, from gratitude.
When you remember what God did for you at the Red Sea and in the wilderness,
You want to follow his guidance. Obedience becomes the natural language of love.
which makes the shift into all the specific laws so much more meaningful, because Moses gets into the nitty-gritty of how this devotion plays out in daily life.
It's a complete worldview. We're talking laws on worship, leadership, family, justice.
Compassion for the poor. The sources really zeroed in on that.
They did. God's concerns go right into the marketplace. You see these detailed laws about using honest weights and measures, about providing justice in the courts, and especially a profound compassion for the marginalized,
The widow, the orphan, the foreigner.
those with no power. If you truly love God, you cannot oppress your neighbor. Your devotion is measured by your justice and your mercy.
Okay, so this is where the teaching stops being just informative and becomes, well, dramatically demanding. Moses lays out the history, he lays out the law of love, and now he presents the outcome. It's a stark choice.
A really stark choice.
And this is where I think it gets really interesting.
Yes, now we're in the section on blessings and curses, chapters 27 and 28. Moses just draws a line in the sand with almost terrifying clarity.
Yeah.
2 paths. Fidelity to the covenant leads to blessing. Rebellion leads to a curse. There is no middle ground.
And the blessings he promises are just staggering. Prosperity, peace, protection. It's this beautiful vision of a thriving nation.
It is. But we have to talk about the curses because they are absolutely devastating and they carry this incredible prophetic weight.
What do you mean by that?
The sources all point out that the warnings for rebellion, things like disease, famine, military defeat, and ultimately exile from the land, they literally foreshadow what happens to Israel centuries later.
So he's predicting their future failures.
He's showing them that these aren't empty threats. God is being brutally honest about the consequences. If you forget, if you reject this framework of love, the outcome is real, it is guaranteed, and it will be your undoing. Your future depends entirely on the choice you make today.
Wow. After delivering that incredibly heavy warning, we move into the final chapters. This is it. Moses' last words, the culmination of his life, and our third theme, choose life.
He renews the covenant one last time, and he makes it deeply personal. He knows that just, going through the motions isn't enough. He demands an internal change. He tells them, circumcise your hearts.
Which means?
It means the devotion has to come from the inside. It can't just be about external ceremony. It has to be a genuine, deep-seated commitment.
The ultimate push for authenticity before he passes the torch, and that internal demand sets up the final, most powerful declaration in the whole book.
It does.
The ultimate challenge, he says, and he's speaking to you, the listener, as much as he's speaking to them. I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life.
That you and your descendants may live.
Yeah.
You cannot escape the personal responsibility of that choice.
It's the perfect summary of everything we've talked about.
It is. Remember the foundation. Obey from a place of love, and by doing that, choose life. And after this incredible charge, Moses does his final acts. He blesses the tribes, he commissions Joshua to lead, and then he ascends Mount Nebo.
He gets to see the promised land, the goal of his entire life's work. But he doesn't get to go in. That's such a bittersweet ending for him.
It is. The sources talk about it as the ultimate act of his own obedience. He accepted the consequence for his own past failure, yet he stayed faithful right to the very end. The text honors him so profoundly.
How so?
It concludes that no prophet has risen like Moses whom the Lord knew face to face. His death closes that chapter of wandering and passes the responsibility for the future to Joshua and the people.
It's the final lesson, and if we connect this book to the bigger picture, its legacy is just. It's immense.
Oh, absolutely. It's foundational. And maybe the biggest testament to its importance is how often it's used in the New Testament. The sources all highlight that Jesus quotes from Deuteronomy more than any other Old Testament book.
Specifically when he was tempted in the wilderness, right?
That's the prime example. Every time he faced a temptation, his response was, "It is written." And the words that followed came directly from this farewell sermon of Moses.
That is massive. It shows that the core teachings, loving God, living justly, were still the absolute bedrock of faith centuries later.
Right. So the core lessons for today are the same. God is faithful. Obedience is an act of love, not a burden. And your faith has to be lived out every day in every part of your life.
So after all this, after this deep dive into Moses's final urgent plea, what's the bottom line for us?
The bottom line is that Moses forces a choice. And the questions he asked then are still the questions for us now. Who will you love? Who will you serve? And will you choose life?
We have unpacked Moses's foundational message, focusing on the need to remember God's faithfulness, commit to loving obedience, and find the courage to choose life. Thank you for sharing your sources for this deep dive.
And as a final thought to leave you with, think about this. The very next book, Joshua, ends with him delivering his own farewell address. And he says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Now, if the Deuteronomy is about this challenge of covenant renewal for every generation, what does that specific focus on me and my house imply? Is the ultimate choice of life not just an individual decision, but a generational responsibility that has to be actively taught and passed down?
Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us.